There's something uniquely special about the bond between a grandmother and her granddaughter. When a young woman is 14 or 15, she is still coming to grips with the implications, both positive and negative, of womanhood. That grandmother, on the other hand, has navigated all of the stages of womanhood. She's, hopefully, come to understand the beauty of her body and its functions. She's loved and lost and perhaps loved again, all while finding her place in the world. The grandmother does her best to share her wisdom with the younger woman, but there are times when a kid must simply make his or her own mistakes. Such is the compelling conceit of Francine Garson's Follow the Leader. Like any author, indie or otherwise, Ms. Garson needs to make her book as appealing as possible to prospective readers. She wants you to buy her novel. I'm Kenneth Nichols, the gent behind the romantic comedies and young adult novels by Allison Rhodes, and I'm going to take a look at the author's book cover and book description to see what we can steal from her to increase our own sales. It's the inaugural edition of Book Description Breakdown! But first, this video is brought to you by our sponsor, satire. Satire is the use of humor to illustrate society's follies and foibles. Believe it or not, there are some people who don't really want to go to a 9-hour lecture about important issues of the day. I know, crazy, huh? If you use satire, you can make your point in an engaging way without putting off as many people. Satire. If you use the promo code Allison, that's ALLISON, you'll get an exclusive bonus. Not only will you make your audience laugh and think at the same time, but you'll also receive a trial box of 8-ounce steaks from Swift Farms. Swift Farms uses only the freshest cuts of beef from the most fork-tender Irish babies. Satire. Use it today. Okay, we're back. Let's judge a book by its cover. We have a young woman looking into the distance, into some kind of disruption. That makes sense. Young people inherently face all kinds of disruption. The soft blues and yellows contrast well with the brunette woman in dark clothes we see from behind. The sans serif font of the title and author name are pretty readable, okay? I definitely get the feeling that this book is about a young woman who's facing some kind of big challenge. Maybe it feels a little bit more like the young adult genre, but Amazon currently has the book categorized in family life fiction, contemporary women's fiction, and women's domestic life fiction. That makes sense, and I'm intrigued. To the description! Okay, Ms. Garson starts with her tagline. Some secrets are more dangerous than others. Okay, here's where I speak out of writerly love. I need to offer some loving criticism, but I want it to sound loving, so how can I do that? Okay, there we go. Much better. Look, writing is so hard. Being an indie author is even harder. So any criticism I make of other writers is made with minimum jerkitude. Okay, let's talk about the tagline. My main concern is that it's an obvious statement. Of course some secrets are more dangerous than others. I never told my first boss that I wasn't late because I had a family emergency, but I actually just overslept because I didn't want to be there. Not a dangerous secret. I have plenty of dangerous secrets, but I'm not going to share those. The point is that the tagline effectively communicates that the book's plot is driven by a mystery, but that's a little bit like saying, some foods are healthier than others. Well, yeah. But see how this is loving criticism? And I swear that music sounds like what Hannibal Lecter was listening to when he ate that guy's face. On to the first paragraph. High school freshman Joanna shares more than a special relationship with her aging hippie grandmother, Grace. Both have made mistakes, and both have secrets. As a teenager in 1967, Grace visited San Francisco, but she's kept one particular detail of that trip locked away for more than 50 years, worrying that the reckless mistake she made on a drug-fueled night would have tragic implications for her daughter, Dawn. Okay, I might take out that first comma, but more importantly, Ms. Garson gives us what is likely the narrative thrust of the book. I have no idea about the structure of the book, but I love the idea that there is some kind of tie between a young woman's indiscretion in 1967 and something her granddaughter is experiencing 50 years later. There's also the added element of San Fran during the summer of love. Whatever happened to Grace must have been interesting. The next paragraph. Today, Joanna is the undisputed leader of her group of friends. However, if her grandmother and her parents knew more about the way she maintains her position, they would find it deeply disturbing. When a new girl arrives, challenging her status, Joanna reveals an even darker side. Okay, I'm getting a Mean Girls vibe. I like it. I also like the hint that Joanna is up to some antisocial behavior. That's normal for young people. Most people grow out of it. Most. I also like the way that Ms. Garson obliquely relegates Joanna's parents to the background. While you'd think that parents would be the first line of defense, or line of attack, when a kid gets out of line, I love how it seems that the grandmother steps in. That's great too. Young people need caring role models. I'm also intrigued by the dynamic that could result from Joanna receiving a challenger to her authority. Next paragraph. Could it be possible that rather than her daughter, it is Grace's beautiful, charismatic, and very secretive granddaughter who bears the mark of her youthful error in judgment? That question, along with the threat of blackmail from her past, has Grace fearing for her granddaughter's well-being and agonizing over the hefty price she and her loved ones might pay for the single fateful decision she made so many years ago. Maybe it's just my age, which I don't like thinking about, but I am intrigued by the idea that Grace has worried about her daughter for 50 years, only to discover that her granddaughter has, quote-unquote, inherited the curse in the end. Parents do their best. Maybe the sentences are a little wordy. I do the same thing. But Miss Garson introduces a possible second act turn when the grandmother and granddaughter are united against some kind of external force. On to the last paragraph. Follow the leader will leave readers asking, what would I have done? Okay, let's take a look at the structure of Miss Garson's book description as a whole. Okay, tagline. Introduction of characters and situation. Relevant thematic question which can probably be answered with yes. A sentence that appeals directly to the reader's emotion. I've done the exact same thing. I've had the same structure. I'm not sure that I would have cast the entire book description in bold, at least in part because then I wouldn't be able to cast the book title in bold on its own to make it stand out. I do like the idea of inviting the reader to ask him or herself a question. Let's recap. Everyone likes recaps. What can we steal from Ms. Garson's book description? 1. Tagline. It's a feeling and a mystery combined. You explain very little, but suggest a lot. 2. Typography matters in everything we write, and bold, italics, all of these things are tools we can use to communicate our intended meaning. 3. Confront your reader with a question. Doing so forces him or her to think, and in this case, to think about your book. Now, dear listener, I turn to you by asking you some questions, like I just said. What do you think about how Ms. Garson ended her book description? Is that last sentence too short? Would you prefer if she added a few words? What would I have done if I were at the Grateful Dead concert where humans met aliens for the first time, whatever it was? All right, under the just passed Internet Influencers Make Way More Money Than Authors Act of 2020, I am legally required to ask you to subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, leave a comment, give me some attention. I need attention. I'm a writer. And most importantly, check out my own books in the description. I just published my first guy-friendly romance. Link in the description. In Ignoring That She Thinks She's a Witch, Bryce just got dumped by a super hot Russian redhead. Fortunately, he meets Julie. Julie is hot. Julie's sweet. Julie is smart. Best of all, she's a lawyer, so she spent years learning how to think logically. Just one problem. She thinks she's a witch. Will Bryce get over his stupid hang-up and stop being a guy like that and realize that Julie really cares about him and that she's super hot? The answer is in the book. All right, that's all for now. I'm Kenneth Nichols / Allison Rhodes here to tell you, books are good.